and welcome back to a new video here on the Lötwig Fusel channel. This video marks the start of a new video series, the Game Engine series. Now, before I've started the series and decided to start it, I was evaluating how I want to continue on my videos on the channel. You might have noticed that I haven't done many videos in the quite recent time. This has multiple reasons why I haven't done that, and in general, what I'm going to try to do is to just have and continue on focusing on one video series, and it's going to be this video series, the Game Engine series. Now, this has multiple reasons. I don't want to go too much into the details because it's no longer going to be relevant if you are watching these in maybe 1 or 2 years, because things on my channel, as you know me, are changing quite a lot. But basically, I've now nearly finished, or currently I'm nearly on the finish of my bachelor thesis, and I'm nearly on the start of a new job. And there are many things that have been going on the last weeks, or let's actually say like the last month or two. So there was a bit of less time for doing videos, sadly. So now I want to do the Game Engine series, and the Game Engine series shall be a video series where we create a 2D game engine, like a 2D game engine, how I would do it, how I like it, with modern concepts that I've come up with that might not be 100% industry proven, but seem to be a good fit. I'm not like a professional on that. I am not even like a software engineer officially. I'm like an electrical engineer officially, and I've just have come through like software engineering and game engine stuff through my hobby. This doesn't mean that the series is going to be bad and not useful. It's going to be good because we are going to do a lot of modern concepts that are proven, and that shall elevate your C++ knowledge and your game engine knowledge and all of that stuff. Now, it's just going to be a 2D game engine, as the video already says, because, using a 3D engine, building a 3D engine, it takes so much time. Now, what is the approach of the video series? It's going to be similar to the video series on DirectX 12. And with DirectX 12, I actually mean both video series, the advanced tutorial and the D3DE, so it's going to be a mix between these two. Now, what I'm going to try to do is that I'm going to explain every concept with a slide. So every complicated concept that we're going to take a look at is going to be represented in one page of a PowerPoint slide, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on how complicated it is. I want to do that because it helps me explain the concept. And then what we're going to do is we're going to implement this. And my goal is to implement everything on screen. So there's not going to be a line of code that's been written off screen, except of the template repository that we are using, but this is covered in different videos. I try to do everything on screen, maybe not all the architecture stuff, but the idea is everything is done on screen. The idea is that I'm going to show you that it's simple to create a game engine in case you're doing it in for yourself, in an agile way. So we're going to actually split up the game engine into components. I'm going to explain in the next video how these components are going to work and how this all comes together with these so-called modules. I tend to call them modules. It's a programming pattern that I would in nowadays always imply, because writing modules, making systems that allow you to dynamically implement these modules and use these modules and load these modules is something that's really, really helpful. Now, I don't want to go too much into the detail because it's going to be covered in the next video with the modules, but yeah, let's get started. One thing, maybe. The videos tend to be short. I hope to make these videos as short as possible, but as long as needed. My goal is to not have a video that's maybe longer than 30 minutes. Let's say 20 to 40 minutes is the range. No, that was wrong. Not longer than 30 minutes was wrong. 30 minutes is kind of like the maximum goal. However, basically, when the video count on OBS hits the 30 minutes, I'm going to try to come to an end in the next 10 minutes, right? This is the idea. However, the ideal goal would be to do it in let's say 20 minutes. So what we want to do in today's video is we want to create a repository. And we want to make sure that everything in this repository works and that we have access to the features that we need. Now, what we're going to use is my template for that. I have this template called MoxBP, which is a template that involves the management of generating the project with a pre-make that also manages external dependencies using Conan. So there is many boilerplate code for a repository layout for a build system already in there, and it's built so that you can extend this. There's like the script directory, you can add your own scripts, you could add your own Lua scripts for building. You can add your own Python scripts for the builds for the automation system itself. It comes with handy SH and batch files for managing the repository and so on. Now my goal currently is to make it run on Windows. However, I don't want to take away the Linux capabilities. So we're going to write this completely here on Windows, but I hope to at some point also port the engine to Linux. Maybe we're going to do this in live streams, maybe we're going to do this in videos where we're going to try to also make it Windows compatible. However, I didn't care, I don't want to talk too much. Let's start by using this template and creating a new repository out of that. It's going to come from here. And what we're going to do is we're going to own it on myself. So this is going to be on my one. And the engine is called Boundless 2D. I'm not quite sure. Boundless. I think I called it Boundless 2D. I have come up with the name. And if we get that one, this is correct. This is exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that non-existing webpage, but Boundless 2D is like the name of the engine. I think I mistyped it here. Let's maybe capitalize this one and also capitalize the D. And I want to set this to public in my personal account. And this is a 2D game engine, YouTube video series. So that's basically what I want to do. And now what I want to do is I want to hit create repository, which is going to create myself a repository. And if I click refresh, it should be already there. And what I want to now do is I want to make a few things that I always tend to do. One thing is to add a license to the project. Now, how can we add a license? You can actually go to, I think, Insights and Community, or no, Community Standards. And if you go to the community license, you can actually add a license by clicking on here, and then you can select a license that fits your project. I think there is like a guide also linked here. I don't like that one. There is also this open source license selecting guide. However, what I want to do is I either want to have the mid license or one of these more complex ones. I think it is that one. I'm not quite sure if I click on that, if it's already... No, okay. It's already giving me... a summary of what it's going to do here. That's good. I don't like that one because this source is not something that I like. This one is a nice one, I think. BSD Clause 2, but I think this is the one I want to do. But let's see. Boost software is good, but I'm not quite... I don't really like these. Now, or we're just gonna stick with simple mid license. Yeah, let's stick with simple mid license. It's the most simplest one to do. So we're just gonna create a mid license. We're gonna enter the year. I'm gonna enter my name, and if I review and submit, I can actually see the license here, how it's gonna be created. I'm gonna directly commit this on the main branch, and now you can see that it's there. And if I go back to my code, you can actually see that the mid license has now been tagged, and I can continue with the repository. I tend to also set up that one, so let's also put in the URL. 2D game engine, 2D platform games, game engine, game framework. Yeah, let's add that one. Windows is also something that we tend to tag because it's only going to run on Windows for now. I don't think that we need deployments or something like that, but we can keep it on here. Please enter a valid URL. I'm gonna add this one like that. The web page is actually gonna be generated from here. So I actually want to have the web page generated out of that repository with GitHub Actions. Not quite sure if we might be able to do it in this video to set up the repository. But maybe it's a good idea. Actually, I think I have created my personal homepage here on github.io to kind of like play a bit around with that. Like this GitHub Pages deployment. This is something that I kind of like want to set up. So we might going to copy it from here, or we might not. I mean, I think it's actually... Do we want to do that today? No, actually, I don't think we're going to do this. We could do this in its own dedicated video, but later on it's not going to fit, right? Maybe we want to quickly do it. Let's quickly do it then. Let's first clone the code. I'm I'm not quite sure where I wanted to clone that. Let's quickly navigate to a directory so that I can show you how to do it. I'm just gonna put this into the Lötwig Fusel directory here. Open up a CMD here, which is it's on the right one. So git clone from there, boundless 2D. Now we are here, and now what I want to do is I want to right click this, show more options, and open this with Visual Studio Code as I like to do it. And now we have the boundless 2D open in here, and we can start editing. I think this is the right size here, right? Now what I first want to do is I want to quickly make sure that this GitHub Pages deployments work. We're gonna copy how I've done it from here. This is like this .github.workflow directory. Can I copy that? Path copied. It's probably completely wrong if I create a new folder. Oh no, it's actually correct. I can do it like that, GitHub workflows, and then we can put the file in here. It's mkdocs.yaml. This is kind of like the file. That's going to define that because we're going to make the web page with mkdocs. I like mkdoc, it's nice. And I already have some boilerplate code in here. This is not a video that's going to go in how GitHub Actions or something like that works, and it was a pain to get this all finished. But yeah, it's, I think, good. So yeah, this is kind of like how you do it. Right, permissions, read, pages, write, ID token, whatever. I don't really care how it works, right? The only thing it does is basically it checks out the repository, sets up GitHub Pages with a special action, installs Python in a certain version, installs the requirements from, I think, the root directory. You might want to move this down later. Then it's going to build using mkdocs. With the output directory here, and then it's gonna upload docs out and deploy it to GitHub Pages. Now, how I implemented it in here is that my root directory had a requirements.txt and a mkdocs.yaml file. I don't want to have it in here. I actually want to have this in a subdirectory, so we do need to kind of like figure a bit around how to do it. I'm going to create a docs folder, and inside of here I'm going to do a requirements .txt, it's plural, I think, requirements.txt. Yeah, this is correct. And so it's gonna be also here docs requirements.txt, and inside of here we also want to have a mkdocs.yaml. I think it's also a YAML file, so they have now like two files that are called mkdocs.yaml, and this is the root mkdocs.yaml. I do just gonna quickly spill in everything here that we got previously. There's like a cookie consents, a bit of configuration that I've already done. This shall not be a mkdocs tutorial, so yeah, this is actually, everything is fine. The only thing that we need to adapt is like repo URLs and stuff like that. So this is done correctly. The repo name, it's gonna be boundless oyorode / boundless2d. The documentation dir is gonna be another, I don't know quite how this works, but I think it's like the root directory into it it's gonna go, and I think I just want to keep it in here so I can remove that. Let's quickly comment this out, and I think this should work, right? Now we can do a bit of things in here. I just want to have a default one, so I'm gonna create a index.md, and I'm just gonna keep that one empty. Everything else we might want to make sure to replace them in the future. Currently, yeah, this should be fine. No, this one is not fine. This should be boundless 2D. 2D game engine developed for YouTube. All right. So this is just a bit of text in here that we can start working. Now I want to quickly show and quickly do a test deployment. So in general, what the command of the mkdocs is going to do is it's going to install these requirements. I don't have a problem installing them globally now. Even though you should not do this, you should do this with venv. I'm going to do it like that. I'm quickly going to show that these work. default user is not writable. Yeah, I think this is fine. If it says it like that, it should be fine, probably because everything is already installed. MK docs build, I'm not quite sure. It should not be able to find that. So let's quickly find out how we can add an argument where to find the file. We can use F to specify a config file. I wanna, as a config file, use /docs, or let's just use docs.mkdocs.yaml. And then let's try out that command if that's gonna do what we want. I somehow messed it up. Docs isn't an existing directory, so it has a bit of a problem. Config value docsd. I think we commented that out, right? Is it by default called docs? So let's make a dash in here. No. Side dir should not be within the docs dir. So it wants to have in a subfolder, I think. Let's just call this www then again, and then let's create the www folder and let's move it in here if it wants to have it like that. Yeah, this is now how it works. And now, okay, it's also creating it at docs out. This is not good. I don't want to have it there, so I need to do it with /docs out. And now we have it in the root directory. That's exactly what we want. I do want to get rid of all of these again, so that we just have the plain minimum. And then I think I have added a // here. So this is now good. And this workflow should also already work. I think we don't have GitHub pages available currently, so we need to go here into settings, and I think we need to go to pages, and then we don't want to have deploy from branch, we want to use GitHub Actions, and now this is going to work. We can use a custom domain there, but I don't want to go into much of details here. We're going to go to, I'm going to set this up on my own. Basically what you need to do is you need to enter your domain. I don't have it. If I press Windows V, I should have it somewhere with like boundless2d.com, and if I save it, it would try to access it. However, I don't have the domain set up for GitHub pages, so you need to redirect the IPv4 and IPv6 requests to the GitHub server, and then it's automatically going to link them all up. So just do that and you can click save. I can actually do this. You can see that it's going to go for a DNS check, and it's going to say that the DNS is not set up correctly. And you then need to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on remove. You need to add a few DNS records in, and then it's all good. But the important thing is that this is on GitHub Actions. If it is not on GitHub Actions, it's, I think, not going to accept that if I'm going to now make a commit. So if I now do the commit, let's quickly say edit web page as action. Then I can quickly commit all of that and sync the changes, and from now on it should automatically run the GitHub Pages deployment. If you go to actions, you should see that. You can see that this action is now queued, added web pages as action. You can now see it's gonna do that in the background. In the background, it's gonna create a on push. It's gonna call this deploy job. It's already running. So you can see it checks out, it installs Python, it installs the requirements, and then mkdoc build failed. Command not found. Docs requirements. Did I make something wrong? Oh, the requirements is empty. Yeah, that's a problem. Of course, I need to copy it from here. I just created the one. I think there's actually an issue with that because there's like somewhere this certify. The certify actually is a bad version here. I think I should have have a security ticket open here. No, I don't have a Dependabot alert or something. Yeah, it's not enabled. So basically, there's like a problem with the certified thing. But since we are on a want to set it on a secure environment. This is everything is good. So add requirements. So everything I should be still fine. And if I now add this one, it should in the actions run that again. So if I go to actions, you can see this one failed. This one is now also running. If I click in here, job is waiting to run on a runner, and now you can see it's starting again. It's setting up pages, it's installing Python, it's installing the requirements. This is now working, as you can see. And then it's going to go into mkdocs build in a few secs, and the mkdocs build is now generating the assets, and now it's deploying them to GitHub pages. And then it's going to do like a bit of cleanup, and then we should get a check mark because it runs successfully. And if I now go in here, I actually can now use that tick box, use your GitHub pages web site, and if I now update this, you can see that we have something at oyoro.github.io/boundless2d. And if I go on here, you can see boundless2d, we have an icon, we have a link to the repository, and yeah, the documentation is basically up and running. We can write a web page with it on our GitHub repo, and every time we updated this with a pull request, commit, whatever, everything that's like in this docs directory, it will automatically change, which is a neat feature. And it take me too much time to explain this in a video that is not even meant for that. But this is what we do. We do software engineering here. I do how I would implement this if this is a project of mine and we have a proper domain and everything is set up. If you want to do that, if you want to build portfolio, this is exactly the right video series for you. You can steal my workflows code. Believe me, I didn't like steal it, but I stole it because like all of these actions that I'm already using, they are like pre-created. So yeah, and of course I was trying to I basically looked at multiple tutorials and built up my workflow page. All right, but what we want to do is we want to actually set up something else in like mkdocs. We actually want to set up our repository. So let's quickly go in and explain you how this works. This repository and like this template, how we can make a game engine out of that. So we have an app directory. This is a working directory. We have now a docs directory. That's what we just created. We have a scripts directory. The scripts directory are multiple scripts. For example, what is in here is something called init. The script init initializes the repository. This will initialize your Visual Studio solution or on Linux a makefile. What is the thing doing? Well, it's doing multiple stuff. It's basically downloading pre-make somehow. It's doing Conan builds. Or Conan installs actually. It's doing multiple things. It's like installing dependencies, it's downloading pre-make, and it's basically just a neat wrapper. It uses something called moxwin to get the right Visual Studio version with things, getting like the code page, finding Visual Studio version number and stuff. There's like a lot of madness going on here. But we really don't care about all of these. We just care about how we use it. And this is actually all described in the video that I've already done, or in readme.md. Basically, in the video that I've done, I've basically gone through the readme.md and explained how it works. I don't want to go too much into the details how this works in this video. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that there's a scripts directory where you can adjust things if you want to go advanced. There's a source directory where all your code is going to go in here. And you have a bit of a boilerplate code in here. Now what we want to do is we want to actually customize this now so that we can use it for our game engine project. The first thing that we're going to do is we want to open up mox.lua and we're going to adjust this. So this is going to be called boundless2d. Because this is the name of our engine, this is the name of our project or our Visual Studio solution, not the project itself. And then we're going to adjust the configurations. We're going to have more than like debug and release. Debug is going to be for debugging the game. What I also want to do is I want to be able to debug the editor. Debug editor. So if something goes wrong, we also have an editor, and we are also able to debug this editor. Then I want to have the development, so a configuration where we can develop the game. And then what we also want to have is a development editor, so that we are also able to kind of like use the editor. And then we're going to have good old release, and release is not going to have an editor. Normally, if you would have multiple platforms for release. We would also have something like release Steam, release Epic Games, release Microsoft Store, or release like GDK, because on Windows it's called GDK, and on Xbox it's GDKX. So you would have like multiple release configurations for your platforms like Xbox or GDKX. So game development on Windows and game development on Xbox. You could like define multiple of these configurations. However, we're not going to add platform integrations yet. So I'm just going to have debug editor, development editor, and release. Quite simple one, not very advanced here. And now what we also need to tell this template is what type of configurations they are, and we have true or false available, and true indicates, hey, this shell can generate debugging symbols, and we're just going to have 2 debug configurations. The other ones are release configurations, so they are optimized configurations with optimal code without debug instrumentalization so that we can use it. Because on a game engine, well, if you are on development of a game engine, the editor needs to run fast as well, the rendering needs to run fast, so this is not a debug configuration, it is just your development environment, and if something is wrong, you switch to debug, you can step through the code and you have debugging capabilities. Say well with the editor and with the game. So these are basically the game running, but still in development. When the game is running in development, it means you don't need to have asset packaging. You have your development tools available to maybe switch cameras and fly through the world, but you have 2 configurations. With an editor to edit the game, and with development in general to just run the game. You're still a developer, you are still serving from your assets, you are still using all your assets at once, and you can test it out and play a bit around with it and maybe send it to a colleague to test it, and you have a development build. A release build is a bit more involved. This is then basically used to like test it on a target machine, right? If you're having like some users that come in and do a playtest, you would give them like this release configuration. And this is then going to have assets packed, content protection applied, and then executable that they can double click and it starts. Multiplayer capabilities, everything is going to be in here. So that's how we want to do it. Now, we don't want to change the source folder because it's all going to go into source. That's fine. However, what we want to do is we want to change the architecture from single to flat, because we're going to have multiple projects to have multiple modules or like systems of the game. And this is going to be fine. We're going to put it to flat, and this is completely fine. Now, I'm going to do... okay. We're just gonna have it as flat, and if we are doing more things, we're gonna do it later. Now, the next thing that we want to set is a macro prefix, because what moxpp is gonna do, this template is gonna do, it is gonna add some preprocessor definitions like debug, development, release, development editor. It's gonna already indicate which of these are active and put these into preprocessor defines. And every define is prefixed by this prefix, or not every define, every macro, which is used with hashtag define, or basically passes a define to the compiler, requires or should use a prefix. Since our engine is called boundless to D, our prefix is BL to D underscore, and then there are going to be the macro names of moxpp. Now down here we have a few custom callbacks that we don't need to actually use. Now, if you want to have like your own custom macros, for example, set it up, you can have actually have like a setup project callback, and every time a new project is kind of like created on moxpp, you can run the code that's in here. As soon as this function is available, you can write code, and it's gonna have a bit of boilerplate setup code, and you can have pre-make defines in here, and then define like lol underscore lol, and then you would have the lol define. But this is not really useful now, and I also don't want to do too much explain the template, because there's a dedicated video for that. Now, since we changed this from single to flat, we also need to have like this flat architecture. So I'm gonna just have a dummy project in here, and I'm gonna move all of these files into the dummy project. Now we have source dummy inside of a project directory is always going to be a build file, a build.lua, and this build.lua is going to specify how it works. You can see we are creating a project called Hello World, or I want to call this one dummy, and then you also have the option to specify an output file name. I don't want to specify that one, dummy is totally fine. So we now have our dummy project. This project is going to be C++20, and this is going to be a console application. You can do all of Turks in here and many interesting things that you might want to do. But we're going to get to these. We're going to also, in the future, if we are going to go into like this modular architecture, we're going to adapt our build system so that it can generate these dependencies automatically, that this is all going to work how you would expect that, and we're going to do stuff with this. That's going to be funny, we're going to do things, and it's going to be nice. But for now, I just want to have a very simple dummy project. You can see that we have a main.cpp, and this main.cpp uses spdlog to write something to the console. Now, actually, as you can see, we are using spdlog, which means that we need spdlog, right? Because we're having an external library. Now, how is this externally used library deployed to our project? It's deployed by using a package manager, the package manager Conan. Conan is controlled by that file, conanfile.py, and inside of this Conan file, you can see how Conan works, and you can see that I basically messed up here, and I have a few tabs in here that have not been converted properly. Now they are converted. I need to fix it at some point. Right. Okay. So as you can see, we are currently having a bit of Python code in front of us, and this Python code is basically used to programmably define and configure external dependencies. You can see that we are using Conan. So from Conan, we import Conan file. This is kind of like the base class for consuming recipes, or also for producing recipes, but in general, we are consuming Conan dependencies here, and this is kind of like the minimal example. Now, currently, this class is called moxpp recipe. This is not fine. Boundless to the recipe shall this be named. Does it matter? No. Should you rename it? Probably. Now down here you can see a bit of settings and generators. These settings are not really relevant. They basically just define how this is going to differ. So you can see it's going to be differing per OS, per compiler, per build type and architecture. This is the default one. So if you're changing the OS from Windows to Linux, this is going to rerun. If you're changing the compiler from GCC to MSVC, it's going to rerun. If you change the build type from release and to debug, it's going to rerun. If you're changing the architecture from x64 to x68, it's going to rerun. So everything is all not special. They're very default. Shouldn't care about this. Generators is something that's more important. It's using the premakes generator, premake dependency generator. You'll need this for the template. Don't change it. Now the next function is defining the requirements. Currently it's using spdlog 1.11. I think we are actually even further. We can do this by going to conan.io/center. And then you can take a look at all of the repositories, and popular is probably spdlog. No, it's not popular. JSON is more popular than spdlog. They should be ashamed. But we can search for spdlog. And I hope that this is working currently, the search, because actually sometimes they have a bit of a problem. Yeah, they still have the problem. So you need to do it manually, and there you can see there are two repositories for spdlog. This one is the one that we want. The Conan webpage is currently in a beta version. I would love to use the old version because it was more stable, but yeah, I don't care. So you can see this page is like loading for ages. It's not really fine. Yeah, you can see spdlog is at 1.12 currently. So we can change this to 1.12 to get the latest version of spdlog, which we should probably use, right? You don't upgrade dependencies on existing projects without a reason to upgrade them. But if you're doing a new project, you're going to take the latest version that's available that you can use. Right, so after the requirements function, we have the configure function. This is basically going to set options on the packages. For example, you can turn the wchar support to on spdlog, which we probably want to do. However, we will only want to do this on Windows. I'm not sure how I can check for Windows. So actually what I can do is I can view the recipe on GitHub, because I think they are doing changes. Go to the all directories, and I can actually see the Conan file from spdlog, and there should be a option. There should be something there which is checking for Windows. I can self settings OS is not Windows, then it's gonna do something. So I am basically gonna copy that one. Self settings.os is basically the way to check the operating system, and I can do a quick copy and paste here and just invert the logic. If self settings OS equals Windows, then we're gonna set the wchar support to true. We can get rid of the pass here, and now we basically have it all configured how we want it. Now, how do we now generate a Visual Studio solution out of that? Well, I'm gonna go to terminal, new terminal. It is a CMD, and since it's a CMD, I can just enter mox. If you are on PowerShell, you need to type out ./mox.bat. And then I basically just specify the script that I want to run. I want to run the init script to initialize the project. So I'm going to do ./mox.bat init. And it seems like it can't find that. Yeah, so we just do mox init, right? On PowerShell, it needs to be /, and here it does not need to be /. So I can see it's doing a few things, and at some point, if you have done everything correctly, you're gonna get boundless2d.sln. And if I quickly open this up, boundless2d.sln, it's going to open up Visual Studio, and then we should be able to see a correctly configured project that we can compile and run with spdlog. So you can see there's a solution, boundless2d, there's a project dummy, and if I go into the project, you can see we have a build.lua. It's also added to Visual Studio so that we could alter it in here, even though I don't really see a point. Since I'm using DPI scaling, it should be, that's actually still quite small. Let's maybe do still. For you guys, like 150, I think, should be good so that you can see this properly. You can see you can edit the build file in here, and you can also open up main.cpp, and you can see that's using spdlog here, and it's using spdlog1. You can see that the function is actually recognized. If I press Control Shift Tab, I can also take a look at the possible overloads of the function. So there's like a templated one. There's one like with a W format string. So if you're using a W format string, which means that a wide string has been enabled. And there's also one with a like normal format string, which is not a wide string. So I can actually see that this all works as it should. And if I now press F5, I should also, currently on debug x64, get this compiled and get an output with warning hello world from spdlog, which is exactly what we want, which means that everything is set it up correctly. And by the way, if I open up this drop down here, we have debug, debug editor, development, development editor, and release. So everything that we set it up is basically available, which is exactly as it should be, because this is what we've done. And now I am actually on that nearly 40 minutes of video. But yeah, that was important. We have everything set it up. There's only one thing to do, is it's going to do a quick commit here, and we're going to say basic project layout and configuration. All right, so if we are editing this one and syncing the changes on GitHub, it's going to redeploy everything, and it's going to make sure that everything is as it should be. If I refresh it, boom, we're going to get our new one. Source, dummy. Everything set it up. Recompile of GitHub pages is going to work, and it's all good. Well, it's not good because we're on 60% Python. We don't want to have that, right? It shall be C++ at some point, right? Okay, so for now, that's it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video where we're going to talk about these like modules and how initialization and stuff and uninitialization on something like a game engine is supposed to work. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a nice day. Bye.